exciting. Welcome back, fellow aviators. My name's Matt Farrell, and I'm the flying salesman. Today we're going to fly from Jabara Airport in Wichita, Kansas, back home to my airport of Shreveport downtown in Shreveport, Louisiana. My job takes me all over the country. I get to fly this great airplane and call on great customers. Anybody from airplane mechanics to aircraft operators, aircraft owners, fleets, cargo outfits, you name it. If they're an aviation company, need aviation parts, then I want to talk to them and see what I can do to help them out. Y'all come along, enjoy the flight. I think we're going to have a big tailwind going home today. So we're going to go VFR at 9,500. We'll see what we see when we get up there. So hope you enjoy the flight. Jabara Traffic Centurion 604 into members taxi from the ramp 236 for departure. Okay, down here on the end of the runway. Go through our pre-flight checklist. Parking brake set, cabin windows, doors and locked. Cow flaps full open. Flight controls free and correct. Going to keep those flight controls into the wind. It's a little windy here today. Fuel selector valve on the fuller tank. All my engine instruments checked. Put that on my map. Nav. Everything's in the green. Mixture set, elevator rudder trim set. We're going to do 1700 RPM and do a mag check and a propeller check. Left mag, good drop. Right mag, good drop. Cycle that prop, good drop. And all the engine instruments in the green. Oil temperature's up to 121, 27 degrees, so that looks good. Engine temperatures all look good. EGT, cylinder head, and TIT. Go ahead and put my course on 360. Activate my flight director. Plus 500 feet. And let's see, avionics set, radio set, autopilot off, flashing beacon on, throttle friction lock adjust, parking brake release. We're going to do wing flaps when we get out on the runway, when we're turned into the wind. We're going to turn and look on the approach, on final. I have not heard anybody make radio calls. Do not see anybody on the ADS-B. Jabara Traffic Centurion 604 into members departing 36 Jabara.
Approaching runway 36.
Thank you, Gladys.
Entered runway 36. 6,000 feet remaining.
Line up on the center line. I'm going to go ahead and hit that 10 degrees of flaps. Come to a complete stop. Power up to 30 inches of manifold pressure. Ailerons into the wind. That turbo stabilize. Cool this morning, this afternoon, making good power. The red line, red line. And she jumps right off the ground. Gears coming up. Turn off those Aeromock Wilco vents. Already cool in here. Flaps coming up. Gonna accelerate and ease that power back. 30-inch manifold pressure. 2,500 RPMs. And Jabara Traffic Centurion 604 in November is turning left crosswind. Correction, we're going to climb straight out for 604 in November.
075, still to Juliet, level 8,000. Arrow 7502 Julia, Wichita approach, Wichita altimeter 29902.
992.
Wichita approach, Centurion 6048 November.
Centurion 6048 November, Wichita approach.
Yes, sir. I'm a 210 slant golf, approximately 3 miles to the north of Jabara, heading 360, like VFR flight following to Shreveport, downtown, Delta Tango, November.
Centurion 6048 November, maintain VFR, squawk 2135.
2135 for 6048 November, making a right turn out.
Centurion 48 November, radar contact 3 miles north Jabara Airport, Wichita altimeter 29902. You can resume own navigation, altitude your discretion.
29992, altitude my discretion for 604 November. I'm going to take it up to 9,500.
Roger. Clear 734 Kilo, contact tower 118.2. We'll see ya.
182, 734 Kilo, good day.
So before I made that right turn, I wanted to make sure I was above traffic pattern altitude. There are multiple airports. I've got Stearman to the east of my position and multiple airports to the south. So I wanted to make sure I was established well above traffic pattern altitude before I made that turn and avoid any traffic conflicts.
Citation 503, set to maintain 3000.
Descent 3000, 22503.
I'm expecting it to be a pretty bumpy day today.
And 22503 to bird.
Just given the
Citation 22.
clear air and high winds aloft.
Currently observed between you and the field.
I don't expect it to be
Okay, clear for the visual.
too smooth.
22503.
There is an air mat for turbulence above 18,000, but I'm expected bumps pretty much the most of the way down.
22503 will cancel with you this time.
Citation 503, IFR cancellation is received. Remain on that squawk code. Change to advisory's frequencies approved. We'll see ya.
We'll stay on the squawk and over to advisory. Have a good day, 503.
Thanks, Steve.
And departure Conquest 2 November Quebec, climbing through 2,800 for 5,000 with you.
Conquest 2 November Quebec, Wichita departure to contact. Climb maintain 15,000. Turn right heading 090.
15,000, right heading 090, 2 November Quebec.
Right now we've got a 39 knot quartering tailwind, 143 knots indicated, 160 knots true, 182 knot ground speed, and we're climbing 500 feet a minute. Pretty good.
Centurion 48 November, contact Kansas City Center 127.8. We'll see ya.
127.8 for 4 November. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Steve.
Good afternoon, Kansas City Center, Centurion 604 November with you, 7,300 climbing for 9,500 VFR.
604 Alpha November, Kansas City Center, the Bartlesville altimeter 2990.
2990 for 604 November.
Yeah, Center 880 Delta Tango, we're out of 180. We'd like to go ahead and cancel the IFR. We'll go to 16.5, and if you have time, we'd like to stay with you for traffic. Yeah, November 0 Delta Tango. Maintain, or IFR cancellation received. Remain on that squawk for flight phone. Fine. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we're going to be doing pretty good. 137 knots indicated, 159 knots true, and 189 knot ground speed with a 49 knot quartering tailwind. So we're going to get home pretty quick. I would expect a ground speed of over 200 knots. Gonna have to turn on the heater. I figured I was done with the heater for this year. 36 degrees up here.
Stillwater Airport, stay altitude. 41, we are 2,800 for 5,000 right now. Let's say 41, roger. Let's say 41, clear to Stillwater as file. I'm taking 5,000, full altimeter 2989er. Stillwater as file, climb maintain 5,000, stay 41.
Pull that power back, cruise power, 28 inches of manifold pressure.
Over 2 November, Quebec, contact
2,400 RPM.
32.25. 32 and a quarter for 2 November, Quebec.
Go ahead and give it a rough leaning. 19 minutes on that flight timer. We'll let the temperature stabilize for about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll lean it for cruise flight. We're leveled off at 9,500 feet. 161 knots indicated, 188 true with a 217 knot ground speed.
Number 3 Delta Alpha, traffic 1 o'clock, 3 miles westbound, altitude indicates 6,600. They've been maneuvering. Roger, I'll level off at 7 before I continue my descent for 3 Delta Alpha.
We are 30 minutes from Shreveport downtown, level 9,500 feet, 158 knots indicated airspeed, 184 true, 225 knots across the ground. Making record time down to Shreveport downtown today. It is a little cool outside, got a 29-degree outside air temperature. Ooh. That was exciting. Went through a really rough patch of air there. Some of that clear air turbulence they like to talk about.
And 2 now, Mike Foxtrot, we do have the field. Bearing 2 now, Mike Foxtrot. Still visual approach runway 31 Texas Airport, radar service terminated, contact tower 123.87. Have a good day.
Visual 31 over tower, now Mike Fox.
Yeah, Fort Worth Center 6048 November. November 6048 November, go ahead.
Just a quick pilot report at 9,500 just now. We went through a really patch of rough air, moderate turbulence that has been all smooth up until that point.
604 November, Roger. What was the altitude one more time?
9,500.
604 November, thank you. And just want to make sure squawk 2345.
2345 for 4 November. We'll probably start down a little bit early with a slower descent.
Better. Citation 5 Juliet Hotel, just to get you low here in just a second. Centurion about 20 miles in front of you, southeastbound, reported light to moderate turbulence at 9,500.
Roger that for 5 Juliet Hotel, appreciate it.
Call in, say again.
So on a day like today with a big tailwind, I've been in this situation before when you've got some moderate turbulence, light to moderate turbulence. You're not going to be able to descend very fast. And it's going to be kind of a rough descent, so we're going to have to slow the airplane down, get the landing gear out, make a nice gentle descent. I'm going to go ahead and start that process now, because I keep pulling the nose up to slow it down, and I keep climbing.
Maintain 4,000.
Down to 4,000 for 5 Juliet Hotel.
I'm below 150 now. Go ahead and get 10 degrees of flaps. Get it below 140. Get that gear down.
Zulu forward center, hello, the screen altimeter 29990.
Now basically I got my speed brakes out. I can keep my power in, have a nice controlled descent. We're still doing 196 knots across the ground with the gear out.
Lotus 259 Papa Charlie, contact for Memphis Center 126.1, good day.
26.1, 259 Papa Charlie.
So doing 300 feet per minute descent, 135 knots indicated, and 192 across the ground.
Here's 858 Bravo Sierra, contact Force Center 126.
Knowing we're going to be encountering more bumps on the way down, I want to have my airspeeds under control. I don't want to be encountering those bumps, especially like the one we felt back there. Don't want to be encountering more bumps like that at higher airspeeds. Getting rocked around here pretty good.
Dakota 4560, Force Center.
That's 4560s with you at level 12,000.
Dakota 4560, Forward Center, hello, the Texan altimeter 29083.
Right, 83, 4560.
Dakota 4560, I have an arrival for you when you're ready to copy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dakota 4560, I have an arrival for you when you're ready to copy.
Yeah, go ahead for it.
Here's 2 and Papa Kilo, call maintain 17,000. Dakota 4560, forward.
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead with that arrival.
Dakota 4560, cleared to Denton Airport via direct chassis at Sierra Alpha, Sierra India Echo, SASIE, truck 2 arrival. Alright, chassis, truck 2, 4560.
You can see on the storm scope it's painting strikes. That's telling you that there's turbulence out there. That's one of the great things about a storm scope is it doesn't just paint the lightning pops that it hits. It can detect the disturbances in the air. So the bumps that we've been going through, they're starting to get painted on the storm scope now. Going through 6,800 feet, so not really surprised. That's about when the bumps ended when our climb out of Wichita.
Good afternoon, Fort Worth Center, Baron 189er Tango Kilo with your level 10,000, 10,000. Baron 189er Tango Kilo, Fort Worth Center, hello, Tuscanaut 10, we're 2983. 2983 on the meter, thank you.
We need to talk a little bit about aeronautical decision-making, ADM, on this flight. I knew that the surface winds were going to be strong when I get down there. Right now, according to the METAR, they're calling 310 at 20, gusting to 30. So you need to understand that you've got to give yourself outs. If you're going to be flying into those conditions, both airports in Shreveport Regional and Shreveport Downtown, both have a runway 32. So in the event that one runway was closed, I have a backup runway. In the event that wind shifted around, both of those airports have crosswind runways. So that's another out that gives me in case the wind was not right down the runway. The crosswind component of this airplane is 20 knots. So when you're going into an area, you got a day like today, yeah, it's clear blue skies. You've been hearing me say in my other videos that on clear blue skies like this, it can be bumpy, it can be rough. So you need to make sure that you give yourself those outs and you don't fly yourself into a box where you've got to land at an airport with a crosswind component that exceeds the capabilities of you and your airplane. So always remember that. Your airplane might do 20 knots. Are you capable of holding that airplane in 20 knot crosswind? You need to make sure that your abilities match the conditions. In this case, we got 2 airports. We got basically 4 different runways to choose from, and I've got backup plans. I've got an out. So always think about where your destination is. I've taken off out of airports before, given demo rides for avionics, and the runway become fouled. Someone had an incident on the runway, and I've had to go and land somewhere else with someone else in the airplane, and their airplane was at the airport we just left. So you never know what's going to happen, and on a day like today when the weather is blue, it's a blue clear sky, the weather's great if you look up. But you've got to take into account these winds and know and understand the conditions that you're getting yourself into.
3262?
We're going into Shreveport. We've got a 5,000-foot long runway 32 at downtown. Going to be a 10-degree flap landing. We're going to make sure we have good positive control all the way down. We don't want to get the airplane up into a nose-high attitude where a wind gust can adversely affect the condition of the airplane. So I'm going to bring the airplane in about 80 knots. Going to touch down and have good positive control all the way through. If there is a problem with gusting 10 knots, we're going to go around. We're not going to mess around. We're not going to have a moment of indecision. If we don't like what we see, we're going to go around and we'll do it again. A day like today, with the conditions we have, I'm expecting a go-around. That's how I'm going to fly the approach. If we happen to touch down successfully, then we'll touch down. If we need to go around, we'll do it again. I'm also in the unique situation that I've flown in and out of Wichita for the last 17 years working for Aeromock, that it's not uncommon to have these conditions right down the runway. So I've flown in these conditions numerous times, and I'm comfortable with my skill set. I'm comfortable with this airplane to be able to do that. Would I do this in a 172? Absolutely not. That's not the kind of airframe that you want to be doing that with. Going to keep that descent going. Still doing 155 knots across the ground with 126 knots indicated airspeed. Nice gradual descent, keeping the airspeed down, keeping the stresses on the airframe down low.
Number 4 in November, contact Shreveport approach on 119.9er, good day.
19.9 for 604 in November, great day to you as well.
Novice 365, contact Fort Worth Center 126.32.
126.32, Mr. Tango Mike, 355 today.
And Randy 33, and just verify you want the localizer 6 circle to runway 32?
Ooh. That's an approach. On a day like today, 20 gusting to 30 downwind approach.
And aircraft transmitting, you're coming in unreadable.
That's a tough one.
Good afternoon, Shreveport approach Centurion 604 November's with you 5,400 descending slowly for Shreveport downtown.
Centurion 6048 November, Shreveport approach, good afternoon. Downtown landing runway 32, wind 310 at 20, gust 31, altimeter 2983.
2983 will expect 32 for 604 November.
And King Air 990.
I'm going to be curious to see when I edit this video what this turbulence looks like on the video. We are above freezing. I'm going to go ahead and turn that pitot heat off. Anytime I'm below freezing, I put the pitot heat on. We're at 43 degrees outside air temperature right now, so I'll go ahead and turn that off. Alright, so the wind's shifted just a little bit more to the west. So 20 degrees off the runway, 12 gusting to 25. So we're going to have about that 12 or 13 knot gust factor. So we want to make sure that we carry a little bit extra speed down final to account for that. I know that there's other schools of thought that you don't do that on a high wind day. You don't carry that extra speed. The Cessna 210 is a heavy airplane. Very fortunate when landing configuration, when we get to where we're going, we're going to be at about, I don't know, 2,800 pounds. So, got a fair amount of weight to it. We can carry that airspeed, pull the power back, and lift the nose slightly, and it'll settle right onto the runway. The main thing I like about flying it that way is you maintain positive control. Yes, you use more runway. I recognize that. In this situation, we have a 5,000-foot runway. If it was 12 gusting to 25, and I had to go into a 3,000-foot runway, a short runway, 2,500-foot runway, I would definitely have 20 degrees of flaps, maybe 30, depending on the length of the runway and the obstacles I had to clear, and I would use the technique required to get me into that airport. 5,000 feet of runway, 10 degrees of flaps, come over the numbers 80 knots, slow it down, touch down around 70, below 70. Stall speed in the airplane is 58 knots. So I want to have maintained control. I don't want to be in a stall configuration with 10 knot gusting to get me out of shape on my touchdown. I guess basically what I'm trying to say is I want to stay an airplane. I don't want to become a kite. 8 minutes from downtown. 3,400. Got about 2,200 feet to go to traffic pattern altitude.
And Shreveport approach 48 November, have downtown in sight.
And 48 November, contact downtown tower 120.22, good day.
Alright, 4 November's going to tower.
Downtown tower, Centurion 604 November's 9 to the north, inbound for 32.
Centurion 6048 November, downtown tower, enter right downwind for runway 32, wind 32014, gust 23.
Alright, enter a right downwind for 32 for 48 November. Alright, we're at 2,000 feet. Again, I got my hand down here on the trim wheel, easing that trim up.
November 48 November, runway 32, clear to land, wind 32018, gust 25.
Clear to land 32 for 604 November, thanks. Landing light on. Coming up on traffic pattern altitude. Gonna have a 22 knot tailwind in the pattern. Gonna go ahead and go to procedure, got a big gust there. We're going to do the visual to 3-2. Load approach and activate. Activate. There is a VASI going to 3-2. But I want all the tools available to me. Right now I've got 20 inches of manifold pressure. I'm almost to the departure into 3-2, about 100 feet above traffic pattern altitude. Easing that nose up. There's traffic pattern altitude. Alright, gas on the full cooler tank, undercarriage. Down and locked. Mixture. Mixture set. Props. Easing those props in. Seat belt, shoulder harnesses, cow flaps closed. Little bit of a balancing act between how far you can go for Barksdale Air Force Base and when to make that turn. Go ahead and start that turn right about now. Now remember, we're turning into the wind, so we're going to be losing ground speed. 22 knots. Nice coordinated turn. A little bit high. All right. We're going to be fighting a headwind getting into the pattern, or excuse me, getting on the upwind.
$500.
Thank you, Gladys. Got 1 red, 3 whites. I'm at 100 knots.